Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center. My name is Olga Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to see everybody here in Ukraine Media Center. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 687 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And today we have invited all of you for quite an important and intense cultural event. We've invited you for the presentation of the poetic collection Rymova, Time of War. So we talk about poetry during the war, because this collection is a collection of the war poems that were included in this book, the poems by our Ukrainian poets who were writing them right in the front lines, in the trenches. So let me introduce our speakers. Joining us are Hanna Krasnostup, Director of Department for Information Security of Ministry of Culture, Petro Maga, Ukrainian poet, a serviceman, Maksym Udovichenko, Head of the Center for the Protection of the Information Space of Ukrainian State Enterprise, Ihor Stepurin, founder of Summer Book Publishing House, Yulia Bereko-Kaminska, poet, journalist, editor of the collection, and also joining us is Dmytro Drozdovskyi, editor-in-chief of the VSESVIT magazine. Dear friends, good afternoon. Ms. Hanna, I would like to give the floor to you. First of all, we understand that during the war it's important to have events like this, and there is no doubt it's important to have such cultural events going on in Ukraine to enable our authors to continue writing about Ukraine, because this is going to be the cultural heritage that our grandchildren will study along with the subsequent generations. So to what extent the ministry supports projects like this? What were you able to launch already? Thank you very much for giving the floor to me. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I would like to inform everybody that the project book for the strengthening of national unity is one of the components of implementation of the national security strategy in Ukraine. You know, the word is a weapon. A book is a weapon, and on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of the Department of Information Policy and Information Security, I would like to thank the authors, the editors. Many poems were written in the trenches. It's important. It's the beauty of the soul. It's something that people have written. They've made their creations, and we can get involved in this process by reading. And what's most important, this book is published at cost of the state budget, and it's supposed to be disseminated free of charge for the population of the freshly deoccupied territories, for the students of the higher educational institutions. They did, during their meeting with the hero of Ukraine, Volodymyr Shevchenko, they can get familiarized with works like this, and they can see how the truth can be delivered through the word, the truth about the war, the truth about what's going on in Ukraine now. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. Let's give the floor to the editors and to authors. Well, I want to thank you, and I want to introduce the authors who are joining us today. It's Anatoliy Matviychuk, Petro Maga, Andriy Demydenko, Dmytro Chistyak, Bohdan Nazarenko, Vano Kruger. I'm happy to see all of you here in the studio. So, Mr. Petro, let's give the floor to you. We would like to hear a word from one of the Ukrainian poets. Dear authors, dear friends, good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Well, you know, I went there where I am until now on the very second day. Well, you know, the serviceman is a hell of a word for me. You know, the guys, they're out there in the trenches, and I'm in the air defense near Kiev. We shut down the drones, we shut down the missiles. We're all classified, but we all know who is where. And you know, it was scary in the beginning, and my brothers in arms, they were given an hour for me in a trench where nobody was disturbing me, and I started writing me. And my first book was published, unfortunately, not at the budget cost, but it came up 4 months after the beginning of the war. And one friend of mine, he said very correctly that it's a documentary poem. The poems were born like, not in a modern manner. It's not the way I write. I don't write in a digital and convoluted manner. I'm just conveying what was going on during that day. I didn't know what was about that book. Stepurin got his due for that. But as I opened that poem, I didn't know what was the poem that was picked for this book. But just to understand the way it works, I've opened my poem at my page 141. And if you allow me, let me quote it, and you will remember that. You will recall that day. The rusty thread of construction, dried blood, Mariupol, a steel cage, the month of August, Azov, the mix of languages, holds as a beach out of uncertainty for all of the world, Azov, in the endless eyes of people, the evil is going up the stage, and Minsk is trying to agree with the devil. The planet is inhaling the savageness as a trained nose. But the steel rods are penetrating the ribs. The lions are gonna be convicted by the jackals. A year ago there were concerts and shows here. Does Mariupol plan to hear them once again? Was Azov dying for you? Were they breathing in phosphorus and biting the barbed wire, not sharing their subjects with the Basque? You can still remove the cage, but don't break this trembling thread during the month of August and Azov all over the world. Well, most of all, I would like all of us to open a book in one page and you see it and you recall everything. I don't want it to be done by our grandchildren. I know the time will come when we will be old and weak, and we will keep drinking. We will toast to the war to never happen again, and our grandchildren will say, come on, grandpa, grandma, stop it. Just in the way that we were saying to our elder ones when they were saying, oh, let it be no war anymore. Well, the things seemed normal to us, but now we see that the world is abnormal. The God gave us a neighbor like that. We would like to live somewhere between Denmark and Iceland, but the things are as they are, and we would like to send the Moscows, I don't know, to Mars or elsewhere, to space, to avoid them. But before I have to run, just a small poem written on the 4th of January. The lightnings are flying, the lightnings are flowing like the trumpets of Jericho, the lightnings among the clouds. The devil's blood is not drying, the Punisher is coming back. The lightnings are flying among the curses, and we wake up with the howling sirens. We shut down something, we dice something. The lightnings are blowing, the lightnings are howling above the capital, and they are already ashamed. They try to agree with refusals. They explode on their own land. There are laid those lightnings as a solitaires. The dogs are howling. The lightnings are getting stale, and we're getting used to them. And under the God's mother cover. The mothers are trembling and the children are being born. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Petrov. We're letting you go, and we want to thank you, and we want to thank all of the security and defense forces represented by you. Thank you for the great job that you're doing for us. Mr. Maksym, the floor is yours now. I would like to say that we already have the first feedback to this book. On the eve of the new year, we brought it to the military hospital, to our warriors who are being rehabilitated after injury, and each of them found a poem for them that they liked. So I'm happy we've implemented this project. There is also a lot of reports from charity organizations, civil organizations, and I think that shortly a lot of Ukrainians may get familiarized with this poetry. Thank you, Mr. Ihor. So what is the printout? Tell us about something from behind the curtain. Well, thank you very much. This year is the 5th anniversary. I think everybody will recall who is present here. These 5 years of Project Rymova, and thanks to Ihor Stepurin, it's an intense project. This project that I think hundreds of our authors passed through. In YouTube, you can add Rymova, and you will see our young poets who were writing the verses for this collection. It's an intense project, and once again I want to thank Ihor Stepurin and our publishing house for this cooperation on this project within the last 5 years. And I think it's been 5 years that the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy keeps supporting the issue of the books, the publishing of the books under this program. You know, me and Yulia, who is an editor from Kherson region, and we know about the occupiers coming to Kherson region, the way they were, the first places they were coming to were the libraries and the books that were issued under this specific program. The occupiers destroyed them, they were burning them, just eradicating them. This is why I think that the Minister of Culture and Information Policy is doing a great job, because those books are real important. And I'm confident this year this program will continue, and I keep saying everybody apply to this program. It's real necessary. So the Center for Protection of Information Space, as Mr. Maksym says, disseminates those books around the hospitals, libraries, civil unions, and they really get into the right hands, to the right people who need it. And that's why I want to thank everybody once again. I want to thank the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, the Center for Protection of Information Space, and first of all to our authors. More than 70 authors of this poetry collection. Yulia, thank you very much. Thank you for collecting this very intense and cool collection with great authors. You were asking about the printout. 1,000 specimens is the printout of this poem collection, and it will be handed over to civil unions free of charge, who will further on disseminate it to those who are mostly in need of this book. Ms. Yulia, a couple of words about how you were picking the poems. Mr. Ihor said that it's a documentary poetry, so how was it happening? Please tell us some more details about that. Dear friends, thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody for understanding of the importance of this thing, and I want to thank all the authors. It was incredibly difficult for me to work with this anthology, but at the same time incredibly easy. You know, the topic is such that sometimes you need some internal force to pass all those experiences through yourself and to be able to work with it. Why it was easy? Because I knew whom I'm talking to, and people were reactive very intensely. It was a fruitful and very quick work. I didn't have to walk around and ask. Everything was on the surface, which says that the authors had something to say and they wanted to share. Yes, the poems that are contained here are the poems of pain, the poems of a profound faith in freedom, the poem of internal force, of inner force that is poured into these pages. That's the poetry of truth. And it was important to me, you know, to have these verses not only manifest something like we strive together to the victory. No, you're not gonna find any lines like that here. These lines are frank, without pathos, with very eloquent details describing everything, and it's more than 70, almost 80 authors included in this anthology, and they are from all around Ukraine, from different regions, with different faiths. There are many Kievites here. There are people from the east. There is Eva, who was losing her home twice, first in the east and then in central Ukraine. And there are people who are currently in the front lines. I would like to recall or mention Dmytro Lazutkin. Even regardless of the situation he ended up in, he sent his verse. There are people who survived occupation in Bucha and Kherson regions, so those verses are not made up. They are the verses that were experienced, and this is what's so intense about them. Some might say that it's not original to issue the anthology of the war lyrics. Books like that keep immersion, and they will continue immersion. They are supposed to emerge, but every book where the authors are engaged, who keep creating, I would say on a professional level, it's not like the beginners. 90% are the authors who are known in Ukraine and even abroad, who win in different contests, who have their books published. So those are the names we're not ashamed about. And you know, it was incredibly important to have them to be included in this book. The uniqueness of this book is that every period within which the book is created is like a section of a tree. It documents something that was inherent specifically in that period during which we were working on its editing. So if we publish something that was written today, it will be different already, both poems and just or spoken word. So it's a documentary poetry that will persist in time historically. Mr. Dmytro, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for the invitation. You see, we're living in a complicated reality today. A couple of hours ago, we were saying our last goodbye to Maksym Kravtsov, the poet who laid his head as a warrior of the armed forces, and it's another reality where this book is issued, the book that suggests optimism, hope, spiritual resistance, unity that is important today, because the victory will be ours, but we have to understand what will be the senses that we enter that historical period with. And what Yulia said, the faithfulness suggested by this poetry, it's important. You know, I've opened this book in the page with Yulia's text, and there is this image. If you make it out alive, your hearts, and feet will become made of lead and steel. You know, the vitality changed, the feeling of time. We have all changed, and the foreign world, the Western world, is looking at us to take the life senses that Ukraine is radiating during this fight for evil, because what is created from the beginning of the full-scale invasion by, say, for example, Petro Maga, in these culture crowds, we were crazy about it. We were calling it the poetry from the trenches. It was cool, it was real, and was being born during war. This anthology from the high quality texts, you know, I've look through some pages, there's a lot of metaphors, the force of poetic sublimation that is completely new. All the panorama of modern literature process is collected here, is the anthology that may become a presentation of Ukrainian war in the Western world. It's necessary today. We have to continue pronouncing it. It comes from the folkloric murmuring of Irena Sluta to the images of the real superhuman. It's new normality, and this anthology is the anthology of new normality, and Ukrainian word now offers this narrative of resilience, the narrative of unity of hearts, the brotherhood of hearts. And it's important to have such anthologies coming in the maximum numbers possible. And I understand Ivan Stepurin, Ihor Stepurin, Yulia Luta, they all create something on the brink of the reality, something that brings us to transcendental reality of truth, and through this transcendence we want the images of victory, of humanity to come more and more. Thank you very much, Mr. Dmytro, for your words. And now, with no doubt, we want to get our poets engaged in our conversation. I would like to give the floor to Anatoliy Matviychuk. I know that you're here. Please take the microphone. Dear friends, before coming to this press conference, I asked Mr. Ivan, the publisher, to send me the editorial, and you know, I was reading through this book whole night, and it was an immense pleasure for me. But let me say it with confidence, the poetry is the language of their higher level entities, because unlike prose and the language of newspapers, poetic verses, they operate the images, the metaphors, the complicated comparisons. That's a multidimensional system of a different nature that tells way more to the people, to the readers, than just a plain language. You can read a report for an hour and you can walk out and read like 8 lines that are going to deploy inside of a human being as a virus, with a number of metaphors, with a number of images. This is why the force of poetry is incredible, and the fact that this book is out now, and the fact that it goes, or it will cross the ocean, at least one specimen, even if one specimen does this, it's important, because through this book people have an opportunity to understand who we are, what we are. And it's even better when this poetry sounds from the mouths of many people. You know, just 4 lines. The world, neither evil or good, was not existing, but the God. Well, I'll seize it. I'm too much agitated. So what I'm trying to say is that together we've all come here with the director Nadia Agayeva-Shved, not with empty hands, but we want this verbal information that is being poured upon you to be interrupted with visual information. The thing is that one of the poems in this book, it was laid as fundamental of a musical and political activity, which is called "The Word is a Weapon," as it was already said, and this word is being written by our biggest master, Anatoly Nestorovich Polomarenko. And I think that if we have such an opportunity, and I hope we do have it, let me end my address right here, and let's interrupt for 2 minutes of visual information. Thank you very much for this makeup. Thank you very much. Let us ask our technical team to take the materials and to prepare them for demonstration. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Dmytro Chistyak. Dear friends, well, really, today it's such a day for us. It's very touching, and memorable because the anthology of Ukrainian poetry about the war, it seems like one among other anthologies that are being issued. They're numerous, but it's not only a documenting of this day and age, but it's a mean of our information support of Ukraine abroad. Let me give you just a couple of lines that are quite eloquent in my opinion, and they say to what extent the poetry today is supporting Ukraine. Look, from the very first days of the war, me and my colleagues in the National Union of Writers of Ukraine, we've prepared an anthology of Ukrainian poetry which included the works of the authors that were included in this anthology as well. And all those issues, they've become like information premise for more than 100 addresses that were broadcasted abroad, both on TV, radio, online. There are anthologies of Ukrainian poetry that are issued in Albanian, Italian, English, and many other languages. Many books are being prepared now, but this book that was prepared by our incessantly working Miss Yulia, Mr. Ihor Stepurin, and of course undoubtedly we want to appreciate the input of the Ministry of Information Policy and Culture, and I want to say that this book is very timely. It should be either completely or partially translated into main European languages, into Eastern European languages, because it's a demonstration of our time. Let me give you an example. Within the last couple of days in Paris, there was an issue of collection of Dmytro Chistyak that was voiced by Catherine Deneuve. You understand how important Ukrainian poetry is today. So just imagine the polyphony of all the authors who are represented here, 80 authors from different parts of Ukraine, from different, we can say, parts of literature process that would not be connected otherwise if it's not for this anthology. Or not for the efforts for our editor, Miss Yulia, because she understands that it's a common deed that we're doing. And I would like to emphasize this specific thing, that it's an important work, and this work should continue. And I hope that all of the authors and us, we all have our own responsibility. We have to assist and support the dissemination of this book. It's our job that we have to do, and this job supports the victory one way or another too. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Dmytro. So let's take a look at the video that Mr. Anatoly is presenting for us. And excerpts from the theater activity Word is a Weapon. Voicing. Read by Anatoly Polomarenko and Hanna Semets. In the cemetery today, a soldier was being buried. The ground was freezing. It was wet with fresh graves. I've never heard a mother crying so loudly. Absolutely weak as a bird who came to the brink of her capabilities. Two warriors were holding her by her hands so she doesn't fall to the pit. Oh, she was crying so loudly, as if she was singing a song. But the song was incredibly sad. My dear son, my little bird, why did you lay your wings so early? How can I live in this world? How a mother can live in this world without you? Who is going to close my eyes then? Oh, look at this sun shining so brightly today. Look, my son, how clear are the skies. Why are your hands so cold and hard? Why are your lips so blue and cold? Or should I only know that this evil is coming? I want to never been born to this world. My son, my ultimate joy, the sun is still shining and the skies are so blue. Dear God, why such a sorrow for my neighbors, my compatriots? How many centuries are we going to be tortured by this so-called brother folk? How many centuries we bury the best ones without monuments, without pathos, and without gilding? How long the mothers will be crying out loud, and the brothers in arms were standing silent and from afar. The last salute sounded and the coffin was brought down to the grave. And for centuries, the earth was poured over the hero. Oh dear God, give us courage, give us strength, so our spirit is not broken by these tribulations, the terrible tortures, so our mothers don't cry so loud, so desperately, because the best sons are perishing in this cowardly war.
Після такої поезії важко.
After such poetry, it's difficult to say anything, but still I would like to give the floor to another warrior poet, Mr. Bohdan Nazarenko. Mr. Bohdan, I hope you find the necessary words and reflections. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to this event. Thank you for including me in this collection. I'm not a poet. I'm not a laureate of poetry contests. I hope my poems are not still known abroad, but I keep on writing. You know, it's something that I do for social rehabilitation during the war, because otherwise you can get your roof on fire. You know, it's I've issued my collection, my personal collection, 15 months of the war. I'm not calling it war lyrics. They're not the poems about the war. Those are just the verses that were coming out during the war. Something that I experienced, something that hurts me, and it transformed into some rhymed verses. My verses were included, you know, I don't remember it by heart now. I've written it more than a year ago. I represent the National Guard of Ukraine, Spartan Assault Brigade. We work near Kharkiv, in Zaporizhia region too. I'm the crew commander of an APC. We have a lot of losses. And, you know, I've come to Kiev, there are traffic jams, there is music playing in restaurants, churches, beaches. Well, there are no open beaches in winter. Well, some may not understand it, but this is something that we fight for, to preserve this peaceful life, so we could all gather here, talk, communicate, network. And the first mission of a poet in the war, is to tell the truth and to look the truth directly in the eye. If you allow me, let me quote my verses. That was not added to this collection so far. Maybe next time it will. And you know, during the war, it's very difficult to write. So this is what this poem is about. The friends asked me to write, and I cannot make it. It's like I want and I can, but the words just don't come out. At least a line per day. I turn my eyes to the paper because my friends want to read it. They want to make fun of it. The radio is lying about their losses. 800 or 1,000 or something around it. Yesterday I've lost another friend. Well, what is the number of us dying? Not a word about that. Yeah, we're cool patriots in the eyes of propaganda. Holy independence depends on us a little bit. One-sided truth is being poured into the ears and we spit it out as the mucus. And our feet that are walking solemnly to every cemetery, the flags are all around there. The truth is only told by the cold wind. The tears are rolling through the cheeks of a woman. The holes and of all of the people around the Bible pages are sticking together. I'm discovering a new America every day. How can I write about the world that is inside out, about the kids that never sit at the school desk, and I see new dimensions in front of my eyes when the life soldiers are going. You know, my friends, they want to read about what they see. There is hope in every single word, in every single blink of an eye. But tomorrow I'm losing another friend. Even the God's cover is not helping. We're happy to see the day, every single day, every single smile, every frank smile, every single joke. And step by step, anxiously, I'm going not to the finish, but to the start. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bohdan. Thank you, and thank you for defending us. Dear friends, please get engaged in our conversations if we have any questions on the floor. Good afternoon. Alla Shershin, Ukrinform. Is the translation of this collection planned, or maybe of some other collections? And is the Ministry of Culture planning to sponsor the issue of the verses of Maksym Kravtsov, who was solemnly buried today? Well, translation is an important work, and Dmytro Drozdovskyi and Dmytro Chistyak have mentioned it, and I hope that with your help we will be able to organize it in view of the fact, well, we have hope that everybody has heard about the importance of this work, and I hope we will be supported because it's all a collective effort, a joint effort. Let me add, on behalf of the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, that it's a priority for us to issue such patriotic books that stimulate us to live, to be resilient. When we take a book like that, we understand that it's the price of our way to the victory. It's a priority for us. We will continue work like that, and we urge all of the publishers to apply to the contests that will be organized by the Center for Protection of Information Space within the framework of the project Book for Strengthening of National Unity. Thank you. We have another comment. Olena Makrymchuk, the Major of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the PR department. Is there a plan to issue the prose of the servicemen? We have a lot of warriors in the front lines who write, and it could be quite cool to make an issue of a prose collection if you have such a desire. Thank you very much. Thank you. But within the framework of a little bit different program of the Institute of Ukrainian Books, such collection was already issued. The collection is called The Voices. Tatiana Pilipets, who was the organizer of the Forum of the Military Writers in the city of Lviv. I think everybody knows about this forum. So we've made this collection, and under the framework of this, or within the framework of this program, this collection is already out. It's important for us as the publishers, and I have a feeling that we have to publish everything that is written by the military, either prose or poems or whatever. It's important for the next generations. It's important. It's crucial. I don't know how important it is for The Hague, but we have to continue issuing it, because later on not our descendants, but literature critics, they will find out whether that one thing was interesting or not interesting from the literature point of view. But the fact that we have to continue publishing and supporting it on the level of the state, it's important. I think that it should be the other way around. There should be another program, specific program for the military books that are written by everybody who are in the ranks of the armed forces. We have another question. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this anthology. Well, I'm supposed to introduce myself. Yevhen Sosnovsky, city of Mariupol. And really, as it was properly mentioned, sometimes just a couple of rhymed lines may give you more emotions and to influence more than some thick books of evidences or something like that. That's the first thing. And secondly, I hope that in the anthologies to come, and I'm convinced that such anthologies will continue both with prose and verses, and I hope they will include the poems from poets of Mariupol. One of them is present here, Oksana Stomina, a famous poetess from Mariupol whose husband is held captive as a prisoner of war together with the defenders of Mariupol. I think it may be a little bit outside of the format, but let me quote a little bit of her verses so you understand the soul of this woman and our Mariupol emotions. Mr. Yevgen, please come closer to the stage. the first verse, in my opinion, may be an epigraph to such a collection. It's called Muse. I think this is what it's called, right? It's us now, the heroes of sad books. It's us writing sick verses about ourselves now. So who would have thought? Accompanied by the music of the mortars, the muses fly up high, and the cries are louder in the morning. The muses are laughing again, looking at the barrels of the enemy tanks. They howl, the muses howl. They express desperation and tiredness. The muses sing the lost way home. The muses go to war and sing from there. The muses make fundraisers to drones and reports. And they report of great losses and small advances. The muses carry the winds behind their backs and the guns in their hands. Who would have thought, even one step before the death, the muses are still obstinate. That's a poem by Oksana Stomina. Thank you very much. And yet another verse that she's written in memory of a defender of Mariupol, Alexei Kislishin. They go better. The best ones go, and again, the best ones leave. Silently. As spectators in the theater, we're watching them set off. We're watching this boy with the lakes in his eyes, listening about his deeds. He's laughing at his picture in the black frame. The dead, his dead got the flag already. The shots are aimed at the heart of his mother. The bodyguards are waiting for him at the border. And one thought is in their heads, maybe it's not him in there, because the blood, there is a heartbeat in the temples, and you've opened the gate to the eternal silence. Oh my boy, you won't be alone there. There are dozens, hundreds, thousands like you there. Thousands of hours holding guard up there. So they will guide you. They will show you your way to the heaven. What else is left for us? Just to hope that the heroes don't die. We stay here lost, stupid, and we're trying to look the God in the eyes. And the boy in this closed boat, he's ready to set off for the eternity. So those are the poems of Oksana Stomina, a poetess from Mariupol. And me, Oksana, and a lot of inhabitants of Mariupol, we wait for our common victory and liberation of our Mariupol. And I hope that Oksana will continue writing verses as the one she was writing before the war, about the love, about life, about her love, about her loved ones. Thank you, Oksana Stomina, Ihor Stepurin. Dear friends, I apologize, but we are running out of time. We had a very intense conversation. We want to thank everybody who keeps working on having such works to become famous. And obviously, I want to thank all of our Ukrainian poets and writers who let us touch upon their creations. So thank you very much, and we want to thank our security and defense forces for defending us. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.